I'm Diane Macedo. Today on ABC News Live, we're following breaking news. Memphis police have confirmed that Eliza Fletcher, a local teacher who was abducted 3 days ago, has been found dead. We have the latest on the investigation and the suspect now in custody. A new ruling in the showdown over the documents seized by the FBI at Mar-a-Lago. Why a judge has granted former President Trump's request for a special master and what it means for the investigation going forward. Ukraine's president says he is not interested in negotiating with Russia. Why he's now asking the U.S. to label Russia a state sponsor of terrorism and the response from the White House. David Muir has the exclusive interview from Ukraine. But we begin with breaking news. Police have confirmed that a Tennessee mother who was abducted on her morning run has been found dead. Mola Lenghi is in Memphis with the latest. Hi, Mola.
Well, authorities here in Memphis making a gruesome discovery last night, confirming this morning that the body of Eliza Fletcher, kindergarten teacher and mother of two, found dead just a few miles from where she was abducted here in Memphis. The 38-year-old man police say abducted her, Cleotha Abston, in court today for his arraignment hearing, facing Fletcher's family for the first time. The mother of two and kindergarten teacher was snatched while jogging near the University of Memphis 4 days ago. The 34-year-old Fletcher reported missing by her husband after not returning from an early morning jog Friday. Police say around 4 a.m., this surveillance video captured a man jumping out of a black GMC SUV, running aggressively towards and struggling with Fletcher, then forcing her into the SUV. Seen 4 minutes later, driving off with the young mother inside. She has not been heard from since. Fletcher's family desperate for her return.
We believe someone knows what happened and can help.
Sunday, police locating the SUV with Cleotha Abston inside, taking him into custody and charging the 38-year-old with aggravated kidnapping and tampering with evidence. A police affidavit describing evidence investigators say they've gathered: Abston's DNA on a pair of sandals found at the scene, and Abston's cell phone pinging in proximity of the scene at the time of the abduction. And one witness telling police she saw him cleaning the interior of the GMC Friday and washing his clothes. Also, according to the affidavit, authorities finding Fletcher's water bottle and cell phone near the scene.
It is a tremendous help to be able to link suspect to victim as quickly as possible.
Hours after she disappeared Friday, police seen collecting a laptop and garden shears from Fletcher's home and towing the family's white Wagoneer parked out front. The married mother of two is the granddaughter of a late prominent Memphis billionaire businessman and philanthropist. Fletcher's family offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to her return. The suspect, Cleotha Abston, is expected to be back here in court tomorrow morning, facing additional charges of murder. Diane?
Mola, thank you. Meanwhile, a federal judge has granted former President Trump's request for a special master to review the materials seized from his Florida estate. Now the Justice Department will have to halt its review of those documents, which could slow down the investigation. Senior investigative reporter Aaron Kaczorski joins me live now, along with ABC's Soreen Shah in Washington and ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer for more on this. Brian, the judge says she's taking this step in part because Trump is a former president and noted a concern about the stigma associated with the seizure. What does she mean by that? Why would that be a legal concern?
So part of it is in getting jurisdiction. Jurisdiction meaning the right to go to a specific court to hear those arguments. And so she's taking this balancing act of the stigma of being indicted or being accused of a crime and saying that that is a higher issue for a former president than it is for the average person in America. To that, I disagree as being a public defender. I think regardless of your station or profession or job, the stigma with coming with being indicted or accused of a crime is all the same. But I think she's trying to do that to narrowly tailor this decision so it doesn't destroy all potential investigations for anyone being accused by the DOJ.
Now, Aaron, the Justice Department has already reviewed these documents. So what happens if they want to use some of this as evidence to bring potential charges? Can they, or do they have to wait? How does that work?
We don't know is, I think, the short answer, Diane, because this has never been done before. Documents have never been reviewed by a special master for executive privilege. For attorney-client privilege, happens all the time, but there's no real criteria set out for what happens if documents are said to be covered by executive privilege. Would they then be off limits to prosecutors, shielded from their use? That we don't know. And in that way, the judge's ruling really is an open question. She has asked both former President Trump's attorneys and the government attorneys to work out the parameters for this special master review, including what happens to the documents that he or she determines are privileged. But this whole ruling does open up a question about the limits of executive privilege. The Justice Department said Trump no longer has that claim of oversight on the documents because he's a former president. But listen to how the judge put it in her ruling. She said, even if an assertion of executive privilege by Trump would be to fail, that does not mean he doesn't have the ability to raise privilege as an initial legal matter.
Now, Zareen, midterm elections are just 2 months away. So what's the political impact of this investigation and now this new development with a special master that will string it out longer?
I think both sides would argue that the political impact actually benefits their side. I mean, you heard Trump during a 2-hour speech over the weekend. He went on and on, but I did not hear him say the word special master once. But he unleashed on Biden. He unleashed on the FBI search. He continued to tease that 2024 run. Our team spoke to Trump supporters on the ground. They think that Trump was unfairly targeted. They think the search will backfire, but the data doesn't broadly support that. The Republicans are trailing in key Pennsylvania races. When you look at the 538 data, you can see that it indicates that Trump may come with some risk for the GOP. The odds of the Democrats keeping the Senate are improving, although the GOP is still favored to win in the House. Although, look, there's still about 60 days left to the midterms, so we'll just have to see how all this unfolds.
Brian, do you think the Justice Department will try to appeal this? What goes into that decision?
So think about it this way. There are different levels to different courts. And right now we're in a Florida district court. It is federal. And so the fear here is if you go higher up an appeal, that you may create more binding precedents at a larger scale. You go up from the Florida district court and you're eventually going to hit the 11th Circuit. So the DOJ has got to look and see, are these the types of judges that may rule in our favor? Also, the Supreme Court justice who's overseeing the 11th Circuit, that's Justice Clarence Thomas. And so there's some kind of forward thinking to say, do we want this to be a district Florida law, or do you want this to be an 11th Circuit or national law that a president, whether it be Barack Obama, Donald Trump, eventually Joe Biden, would have this power to say, hey, I don't want these documents to be reviewed, stop this investigation. That's a bit of a question mark for the DOJ.
Now, Aaron, how long could it take to appoint this special master, and then how long could this person take to go through everything and decide what can be used in prosecution and what can't?
The order does not spell it out, so that's something that the two sides are going to have to work out with the judge. They have until Friday to propose a list of candidates for the job, and we don't know whether they'll be able to reach an agreement. They haven't been able to agree on much so far. They also will have to agree on the parameters for this person's work. How long? And what's the scope of their review? Is it unlimited? Is it only certain documents? The Justice Department may well disagree with the former president's attorneys as to how this work should be done. We'll find out on Friday.
We sure will. All right, Aaron Katersky, Zareen Shah, Brian Buckmeyer, thank you. And record heat is fueling wildfires in California. Firefighters are hard at work all across the state, including at a new fire that exploded in size overnight. ABC's Will Carr has the latest on that.
A deadly fire sparking in California, joining several rapidly spreading wildfires in the state amidst a record-breaking heat wave. At least 1,500 households forced to evacuate after the Fairview fire exploded in the city of Hemet, scorching more than 2,700 acres, killing 2 civilians.
We have a big evacuation order put in place due to extreme fire conditions that we're witnessing right now.
The flames engulfing everything, burning homes, destroying cars, scorching structures, burning them to the ground. Firefighters rushing to stop the spread. Fueled by dry conditions and strong winds, the fire's only 5% contained.
Over in this direction, it was just a huge black cloud of smoke, and it was coming towards us.
To the north, the mountain fire climbing to more than 11,000 acres, burning for its 5th day, just 20% contained. The west reeling from a summer of dangerous heat. California state officials now urging residents to cut down on power to avoid blackouts.
We're expecting scorching temperatures throughout California this week. Here in Hemet, it's going to be well above 100 today. It's going to be perfect conditions to continue to fuel this fire. Diane.
Will Carr, thanks for that. Meanwhile, heavy rains caused flash flooding in the Northeast overnight. Now at least 10 states are on alert for more floods. ABC's Trevor Alt has the latest from Connecticut.
Flash floods ripping through the Northeast. 54 million Americans under flood alerts across 10 states from Virginia up to New Hampshire. Helpless drivers under siege by an onslaught of water. Katie Cotter, one of several stranded on I-95 in Rhode Island.
It was just crazy. Like, I've never been in something like that before. It was just buckets of rain coming down. It was just like nonstop. I was stuck for like all in all 3 hours in my car.
Countless vehicles stalled out, submerged, or swept away.
The highway's totally shut down. That's what I'm seeing, and people are going down the exit ramp the opposite way, and a lot of people are wasting their gas.
This parking lot full of mail trucks underwater, and this car swallowed by the strong currents. That same system dumping 10 inches of rain in parts of northern Georgia, washing out roads and flooding homes.
And Diane, all this rainfall is coming as a lot of these northeastern states have been operating under drought conditions for the past several months. So in that sense, the rain is welcome, but also all the water falling on dry ground is what's contributing to these dangerous flash flood conditions. Diane?
Trevor Alt, thank you. And Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky is asking the United States to classify Russia as a sponsor of terrorism. In an exclusive interview with World News Tonight anchor David Muir, Zelensky spoke about the Russian invasion as Ukraine wages a counteroffensive against Russian forces and as the situation around that nuclear power plant grows more dangerous. David Muir is in Kyiv with more. Hi, David.
Good morning from Kyiv, and there are new and very real concerns this morning over the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The backup power, which is the main power for the plant, has now been shut down because of shelling in the region. They've now turned to one of the reactors to power the rest of the plant, including those significant cooling systems, which are obviously so vitally important at that plant. Also this morning, Ukraine's counteroffensive underway here, and President Zelensky telling me he is not interested in any compromise with Vladimir Putin, saying to me, you cannot have dialogue with terrorists. What would you say to Vladimir Putin right now about ending this war?
I don't have any words for him. It's a question of dialogue with terrorists. You cannot discuss anything with terrorists after rapes, after tortures, after murders, after we discovered a lot of dead bodies with cut limbs. It's not a war. It's pure and clear terrorism. Now we ask the United States to recognize Russia as the country's sponsor of terrorism.
Have you been given any indication that the president would be willing, that the U.S. would be willing to name Russia a state sponsor of terror?
We discussed that with President Biden. We want this to happen. I understand that it's not easy.
As we sit here, your life is still clearly in danger. The foreign minister of Russia said in recent weeks he called this an unacceptable regime. What is your intelligence telling you? Does Russia want you dead?
Yes. The information is as it used to be. There are different groupings that are tasked with this task, but the aim is the same.
Overnight, President Biden, returning to the White House, was asked after our interview if he would support designating Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. He simply said no.
David, thank you for that, and thank you to President Zelensky for that interview. Tonight, David will anchor a special edition of World News Tonight live from Lviv. Britain's new Prime Minister Liz Truss met with the Queen today as she prepares to take the reins from Boris Johnson. Truss comes to power in the middle of an economic crisis. Foreign correspondent James Longman is in London with the latest. Hi, James.
Yeah, good morning, Diane. Well, Boris Johnson has this morning said goodbye to the nation. He stood outside Downing Street very early this morning before heading up to see the Queen at Balmoral to offer his resignation. Alongside Liz Truss, our new Prime Minister, officially asking to form a government and returning to London this afternoon as the 15th Prime Minister of the Queen's reign and the third woman. Now, Liz Truss was elected to Parliament in 2010. Not a lot is really known about her. She has sought to compare herself rather to Margaret Thatcher. Often throughout the campaign, she appeared to be dressing just like Margaret Thatcher and looking to do photo ops in sort of similar situations. But I have to say, a lot of people in this country aren't really clear on where she is or what she stands for, despite the fact that she's been a minister in various different governments for the last 10 years. Her critics would accuse her of political opportunism, kind of moving whichever way the political wind blows, because when she was younger, she was a firebrand left-wing activist. She campaigned against nuclear power, even calling for an end to the monarchy. But her views have shifted radically over the years. She actually campaigned for Remain in the Brexit referendum and has now become a darling of the right and of those who were supporting the Leave campaign at the time, but now does need to broaden her appeal to the nation at large, because this country is facing a serious cost of living emergency. It's fueled by 10% inflation, but it's forecast possibly to reach as much as 18%. It really means that people are struggling in this country. And during the campaign, she actually dismissed the idea of providing people with any kind of financial aid. She called it handouts. She was heavily criticized for that. She then tried to now it's thought maybe as early as this week she'll come out with some kind of financial package to help people, not just households but businesses, because people's energy bills really are exploding, doubling, tripling, some even quadrupling. So it's a massive emergency in this country. She is trying to present herself as something new and different. You would expect that, a new prime minister. But it's going to be difficult for her. Her Conservative Party have been in power for 12 years. Diane?
All right, James Longman, thanks for that. And New York police are investigating the death of Bed Bath & Beyond CEO Gustavo Arnal after they say the 52-year-old apparently jumped from his 18th floor apartment in Lower Manhattan. The New York City Medical Examiner's Office will now officially determine the cause of death. It comes after the company announced a restructuring plan. Will Reeve has more.
Police are investigating the death of Bed Bath & Beyond CFO Gustavo Arnal, the executive dying by suicide, plunging from this luxury high-rise in downtown Manhattan Friday. Arnal's death coming days after the struggling retail giant announced it would close around 150 stores and lay off a fifth of its employees.
They had about $100 million in cash, and they burned through over $300 million in cash in the previous quarter. And they were about to run out of cash, so they desperately needed to both cut costs and to raise more money somehow.
This on top of the $1.2 billion stock fraud lawsuit facing Bed Bath & Beyond. Arnal named as a defendant in that class action lawsuit along with investor Ryan Cohen and others. The defendants accused of artificially inflating the company's value when Cohen bought nearly a 10% stake in the company and then sold it for a huge profit a few months later.
They were both sued for essentially what's called a pump and dump scheme, where they drive up the stock artificially so that they can sell it and make a profit.
At the time, Bed Bath & Beyond's stock price shot up over 350%, becoming what's known as a meme stock, when a stock gains popularity among young retail investors through social media. Investor Ryan Cohen, who rose to fame for his big bets on GameStop stock in 2020, was one of the biggest names to buy a stake in Bed Bath & Beyond, shares surging when Cohen's involvement was first revealed.
ABC News reached out to Ryan Cohen for comment and did not hear back. In a statement about Arnal, Bed Bath & Beyond said, quote, "He'll be remembered by all he worked with for his leadership, talent, and stewardship of our company. Our focus is on supporting his family and his team, and our thoughts are with them during this difficult time. And if you or someone you know are struggling with thoughts of suicide, free confidential help is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call or text the national hotline at 988. Diane?
That helpline, so important. Will Reeve, thank you. Coming up, students in Uvalde, Texas are returning to the classroom today, 3 months after the school shooting that took the lives of 19 students and 2 teachers. We're in Uvalde when we come back. Welcome back. Today marks the first day of classes for the Uvalde, Texas School District. It comes more than 3 months after a gunman opened fire inside Robb Elementary, killing 19 children and 2 teachers. Maria Villarreal is in Uvalde with a look at how the community is preparing for the new school year.
On the first day back to school in Uvalde, the road to healing is lined with posters and makeshift memorials reminding families how strong this city is. Buildings now serving as canvases for the 21 larger-than-life murals honoring the victims.
It's so good. Before we go to work every morning, we drive this way. We'll say good morning.
And it's just like she's smiling at us.
This is Tess Mata, a cat-loving Astros fan that wanted to be a TikTok star. The couple and their older daughter, Faith, sitting down with us less than 2 days after the shooting.
For those people who watch this and say, that will never happen in my town.
How many times did we say that?
3 months after losing their daughter, the family is finding strength in Tess's memory. Veronica is a teacher with the district and is planning to be back in the classroom this year. I imagine that the question on not just everybody's mind, but really the people who live here, the families, the parents, do you feel safe going back and working?
I do. It's slow. But I know that they're coming along.
Did you really have to wrestle with yourself about going back?
No.
It was never a question.
It was a question of whether I was mentally ready, but not to go back. Teaching was always something I've wanted to do, and I know that Tess would have wanted me to go back.
The district is doing all it can right now to make both family members, staff, and students feel safe in this moment. Just as drop-off was done here at Flores Elementary, staff members came out and started to work on a security fence that will go all around Flores Elementary. We also know that DPS troopers are stationed at all of the schools here in town as well as throughout the community. Just one of the ways that everybody is working together to keep people safe on the first day of school. Diane?
Maria Villarreal in Uvalde, Texas. Thank you. Coming up, the American making history at the U.S. Open, knocking off the world's top-rated player. So what's next for Frances Tiafoe? Stay with us. Welcome back to ABC News Live. A suspect is dead and a second still on the run following a string of stabbings that left 10 people dead and at least 18 wounded in Canada. Police in the Saskatchewan region say they found suspect Damian Sanderson dead in a field. They're still looking for his brother, 30-year-old Miles Sanderson, who they say may be injured and seeking medical attention. He's considered armed and dangerous. Governor Gavin Newsom has signed a landmark law giving fast food workers in California more power and protection. It creates a fast food council that could raise the industry minimum wage as high as $22 an hour for companies with more than 100 restaurants. Restaurant owners say the move will drive up prices for consumers. And 22-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal has been defeated by American Frances Tiafoe at the U.S. Open. At 24 years old, Tiafoe is the youngest American man to reach the quarterfinals at the U.S. Open since 2006. He's the son of immigrants from Sierra Leone. His father was the head of maintenance at the Junior Tennis Champions Center in Maryland. Tiafoe and his family lived on the grounds, and that's where he got his training as a young tennis player. I'm Diane Macedo. Do stay with us as ABC News Live continues with more news, context, and analysis.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.